Hey everyone, how are you doing? So the market is opening back up here Monday whenever you're watching this, and it's going to be an interesting week because Friday at the end of the week we're going to have the thing called job report status, what's going on with it, and everyone has fingers crossed that the job reports is still going to be terrible. as bad as that sounds, we need it to still be bad so we can get this next rate cut, because if we don't, things are going to not look good for what the rate cut could be here at the end of October. So that'll be one of the big things happening this week. But two, this is also the start of earnings this week. We're going to see some companies start to release earnings. It's going to give us kind of a guidance where things are at, and obviously the market will be bouncing off that quite a bit. But as we go deeper into October, we're going to be coming out with a lot more bigger quarterlies. So this is a good month. It's going to be a big month. And let's talk about what's going on here with BigBear and SoundHound. When should you buy in? Is this the right time? Are these stocks going to go back up? Let's get into it. So with that, BigBear's had a great year. I put a few deals that have happened here as of late, noticeable ones that people have kind of kept in the back of their mind here. So with these deals, and most of these probably we have not really seen go on a quarterly that thick, especially the Nashville one, because that one just happened here 3 weeks ago that we found out about. Now, even the Panama one, I don't think a lot of that one's actually hit on a quarterly here. So when Q3 comes out here at the beginning of November, it's going to be interesting to see what that quarterly should be. Now, that quarterly should be thicker than the Q2 that came out here. Q2 was devastating, obviously. And, I mean, even at this point, if this next quarterly around BigBear comes out to be, this Q3 comes out somewhere around 35, 36, that's a win. That's a win because it's showing, okay, things are ticking up. It's still not going to pass expectations, still not going to do any of that, but it will be better. The main thing that we don't want to see with this next quarterly is that they get into the $20-some million quarterly range. That is going to be devastating. So, and not to say it couldn't, but, it shouldn't be that bad from all these deals that we've seen here. The problem with these airport deals is that, well, a lot of them, besides the defense ones, they don't tell you how much the deals are for. Like, they don't say, million point plus over X amount of years. Those are kind of the military ones. These more private ones with these companies, especially the airlines, they're not going to let this be known. Like, this is not going to be general public knowledge at the moment here. So it's kind of, we're just guessing what's going on here at this point. So BigBear, obviously, from the moment the rate cut was announced to Tuesday afternoon when Jerome Powell talked and sank the market, BigBear was going crazy. I mean, this was the third push-up this year alone with BigBear. So, if you've been swing trading BigBear all year, you've been making crazy money. You've been making crazy gains. Now, I definitely think BigBear being in this $5, $6, even $7 range, that is a very comfortable place for BigBear to be. That's a good place, at least until we find out more about what's going on with these quarterlies. Now, saying that, there's a lot of people that go like, no, BigBear is like a $10, $20 stock. Off expectation, but right now, I love BigBear. I've been yapping my gums here about BigBear for over a year now, so I will tell you, yeah, BigBear is there could be a huge turnaround with what's going on here in 2026 if they keep getting these airline deals. We see a few more defense deals come out here. Yeah, this is going to be a great play, and it's going to continue to roll into 2026 with some heavy pushing. But they need more money. They need more deals. They need to execute these quarterlies. Big money is not going to come in here and stay in here until we see more happen with the deals. And obviously, saying that too, BigBear has had a lot of investments from these brokerage firms, and they've been buying up a lot of it. But if we're going to see, BigBear remain up in this high volume and be bought up on a weekly basis, Monday through Friday, there's going to have to be more proof in the pudding here that BigBear can sustain this 8, 9, 10, past that dollar range here. But quarterlies are trash right now. They're just trash. And I say that in hopes that they turn things around here. The one thing that is very strong and good about BigBear is the guidance and the expectation and essentially the FOMO with investors with Big Bear, because Big Bear does this thing where it gets a deal, gets something happens very positive, very good, and then it kind of just goes dormant for a minute, and people lose excitement, they lose traction, and Big Bear sinks down to a new, down to a $4 or $5 range, which is still very good considering where people could have be with Big Bear, if you were buying it, at this time last year. So it was a dollar some stock. Now we're dealing with Big Bear having a lot more volume, having a bunch of deals, and things are moving in the right direction. But they just need more of that too, on top of what they've already got. Now with Big Bear, I think if you're swing trading this, obviously you're wanting to buy in on the bloodbath days. You're wanting to buy in on the days where Big Bear is just sinking, and you're like, oh, what's going on here? Those are the days that you're wanting to buy Big Bear. Obviously, even for long-term investors, I would not right now. I'm going to be honest with you. I would not be buying Big Bear past $8, because this $8-9 battleground with Big Bear has been here the whole year. This has always been the brick wall with Big Bear, this $8-9 range. Now, obviously, at the beginning of the year here, Big Bear hit that $10 range and some change. But that was just that was literally a squeeze. I mean, that just happened. But as fast as it happened, it ended that fast. So Big Bear here 100% stands all the chance to continue to push in this anywhere from $6 to $8 range. I totally believe that, especially leading up to quarterlies here. This could be a very hot month for the market. Now, obviously, there's a lot of conversation about, the market's going to tank, we're going to have a recession. Those people are still out there. They love talking about this stuff, and that's totally fine. And obviously, there's always something that could happen, okay? There's always, a wild card mixed in here. But with that, if you look at the time zone on the last push with Big Bear, so that second push we had from July to the end of July, and even June was pretty heavy in there too. That was a long amount of time right there where Big Bear was just having a lot of push, and before that Big Bear was trading around $2-3. Okay, so and that's kind of coming out of that deep sea tariff news. Big Bear was not safe from the market at all. It sank in that moment too. But over the summer, they got more deals, more good news, and they pushed up into that range over the summer. Then Q2 came out here and it just sank the whole stock. So if you're wondering why, if you just got here and you're like, why was there a huge dip in Big Bear after the summer ended here? That was that Q2 release. Q2s were they were terrible. But with quarterly number 3 coming up here at the beginning of November, I'm going to be honest with you, I still don't know if they're going to pass that quarterly. My hope and expectation is that they at least come out with a $36 million quarterly, at least somewhere in that range. At least they need something like that. The worst case scenario, like I said, is that they do worse than Q2. I mean, that would be devastating, but I don't really see that happening because there's been so many solid deals even right before and after that Q2. So that's why I knew quarterly number 2 when it came out here, it was going to be rough, because I was like, there's going to be stuff on it, but it's not going to be as thick as what it should be, because right before that, a month before that quarterly, they had deals, and then right after that quarterly, they had some stuff going too. So friends, sadly, we're still in this place right now where Big Bear is just going to be volatile, more than likely. It's just going to be up and down, up and down. Believing in the long-term, lifespan of Big Bear, I still think, it's definitely should be on your board of like top 10 stocks that need to be watched on a daily basis for news, for volume, what's going on, who's partnerships, trading, who's buying it. It's being bought up by Wall Street. There's a lot of big Wall Street players buying up Big Bear. That's something that we've been seeing the past 2 months here, where it's getting bought. So that's good. That's good. But too, retail investors obviously are very much in it too. But for it to really get back into this double-digit number and sustain that, I hope I'm wrong. I hope it goes there. But for it to get there and stay there, they need a deal. They need a big deal, and or they need to execute quarterlies. Those two things will gain the confidence of investors 100%. If BigBear can achieve one of those in the next few months, yeah, undoubtedly, this is going to go to a $9-10+ stock. Undoubtedly. I mean, if you saw anything what SoundHound kind of did this year and even last year, it's pure evidence of what can happen to BigBear here. So, yeah, friends, I still, 100%. I think BigBear's on the right track here. It's still a glass floor. That, sad to say, it's still a glass floor where it's just going to be manipulated. It's going to move on hype. It's still, to me, BigBear is still it's a wild card. It's a wild card 100%, because, BigBear could just come out tomorrow and say, hey, we just received a deal with, this company. And two, with BigBear being in going off of the rate cuts, going off the last deal, the investments, retail investors very much back into BigBear here. If they were to release news that they got another deal here in the next 2 weeks, especially going into the next quarterly, yeah, BigBear is going to continue to fly 100%. So, I think it's going to be a good month with BigBear. We'll see what happens here, but yeah, I'm excited. In SoundHound is very much, it's hard to talk about one of these stocks without not talking about the other one. SoundHound has really proven itself to come up out of the depths, start beating quarterlies, surpassing expectation of what this company can make. And a lot of people still are calling SoundHound a one-hit wonder. I get that. I get where that comment comes from, because this is all new ground with SoundHound. SoundHound has been releasing these quarterlies that it has never made this kind of money. But two, SoundHound has been capturing deals. They broke into the European market. They're in the auto industry. They're in the fast food business. They've got their hands in a lot of different, places of business, which is great with a lot of different companies. So, I look at SoundHound and I go like, I think SoundHound, just like BigBear, has a strong position in AI into the future. BigBear obviously being wrapped up in security, and that's the thing with BigBear. When we talk about BigBear, BigBear is an AI company, whatever you want to call it, software, but essentially it's pretty much used as security at this point. This is essentially, it's a security company, AI security company. That's pretty much what it is. SoundHound is still very much in this, I'm sure it's used for security too, but it's very much for, AI voice automated systems for, fast food restaurants, the auto industry. There's certain really big car dealerships, car brands. So SoundHound is making tons of money, more than they've ever made before. They've broke into this $40 million plus quarterly range. So, if imagine if SoundHound finishes off these next two quarterlies, beating the quarterlies and staying in somewhere in this $40 million range quarterly, where it just pushes, maybe by Q4 they could be like in a $45-46 million range quarterly. That would be crazy. SoundHound would remain around the $17-20 stock easily. So, when we talk about what is a good place to buy into SoundHound, when people were buying this stock 2 weeks ago at $14-13, they're in profit zone right now. It's hard to say, because, there's so many stocks out there where I go like, oh my God, Applied Digital, that's a whole nother conversation. But, looking at SoundHound, I go, it really depends. What is the market going to do here? Our investors, there's a lot of bear talk right now. There's a lot of bear talk where people are like so scared of the market right now, because, of all this talk with, Jerome, we're going to do rate cuts. But then Jerome came back out and said, well, we're still going to do rate cuts as far as we know, but we're willing to, if we have to make corrections, we will, meaning we won't do a rate cut. And this week we're going to hear more from the feds, and people are like, man, I hope these job reports are bad, because if the job reports are bad, then the feds will still be forced to do another rate cut here at the end of October. So it's hard to get a reading on what's actually going to happen here. But, too, with this this is a big month because we're getting a rate cut. I'm talking about October, obviously. October, we're getting a rate cut. Quarterlies will be coming out here every week with companies, and the market's really gonna be looking at that. What is the retail doing? What are they passing quarterlies, or are we gonna see the same kind of trend where fast food is losing money, retail is losing money, but these AI companies are just pushing, the chip companies are pushing, software companies pushing. Is that kind of what's going to happen? If it does, it's going to say one thing. It's going to say these AI bear people that are just saying that AI is a bubble, they're going to be kind of proven wrong, because it's just another proof of the pudding here, proof of the pie, that AI is continuing to push into new money. I don't. The issue I see with this bear conversation in saying that this is a bubble right now, and it could be, who knows, but all these AI companies, they're still signing contracts. They're still finding money. Even talking about BigBear getting new deals, talking about SoundHound getting new deals, that's new money going into the market 100%. It's going into the S&P, it's going to the NASDAQ, it's going to the Dow, whichever one of those companies are in those markets. It's showing that there's still a need and a want for these AI companies at an aggressive pace. So yeah, I'm still not betting against the AI market. I'm not betting against it at all. I think it's kind of ludicrous to bet against that right now with how much proof is in the pudding of how good they're doing right now. So friends, I'm excited about BigBear. I'm excited about SoundHound. I really do. I want to give a back and forth of, a double-edged sword with the conversation, the good, the bad. I don't ever, just want to say all the good things. I do think we need to talk about the what ifs, obviously. And there's some stocks it's hard to talk about the what ifs, because there's some stock, Palantir, it's hard to talk about the what ifs because it's doing so good right now. But friends, I wish you all the best of luck. Let's get this market back in the hands of retail investors and take it back here. Friends, take care of yourself. Bye everyone.